Proposals are meant to be perfect until they go explosively wrong. But what if the worst moment becomes the best story ever told? You'd think after 4 years together, I'd be chill about proposing to Emma. Spoiler, I wasn't. I was a mess. A caffeine-fueled, anxiety-ridden, over-prepared disaster of a man. The kind of guy who spent 3 weeks debating whether to go down on one knee with my left leg or right because one apparently photographs better. I googled it twice, but to be fair, I wasn't always like that. It all started with a taco. 4 years ago, I was dragged to a street food festival by my roommate who claimed I was losing my spark and needed to get back out there. I didn't expect anything magical to happen. I was hungover, sunburned, and emotionally unavailable. But then I saw her standing in front of a Korean taco truck, arguing with the vendor about cilantro. She hated cilantro, said it tasted like betrayal. And that was it. I was hooked. I pretended to hate cilantro too, even though I loved it, just to keep the conversation going. She saw through me instantly and called me out on my fake gagging. But she laughed. That laugh. God, it sounded like summer. Crisp, warm, and a little wild. I'd spend the next few years doing everything I could to hear it again and again. And now here I was, 4 years later, kneeling on my bedroom floor, surrounded by candles, rose petals, and the smell of stress sweat, rehearsing my big proposal moment to my reflection like an off-Broadway Romeo. Emma, I said, staring at myself with dramatic intensity, from the moment you called me a cilantro poser, I knew no. I felt the you were. I paused. That sounded awful. I scribbled it out in my notebook. Notebook number 3, proposal drafts. I had 5 others. Yes, really? There was a knock on my door. I nearly flung the ring across the room. Jude, my roommate Ben, called through the door. Your flash mob group cancelled. Again. My stomach dropped. What? Why? They said it's a safety hazard to dance in a parking lot with open flames. Oh right. The flaming heart-shaped backdrop. They don't get art, I muttered, standing up and pacing. Okay, plan BN. Or C. Or GX. I've lost count. Ben leaned in, arms crossed. Maybe. Hear me out. Just propose. You know, like a normal person. I stared at him, horrified. Emma is not a normal person. She deserves something unforgettable. She deserves fireworks. She's literally allergic to fireworks. Okay, fine. Figurative fireworks. Ben rolled his eyes and walked away, muttering something about being emotionally exhausted just by existing near me. He didn't get it. Emma wasn't like other girls. She didn't want some Pinterest-looking picnic or a fancy restaurant proposal where everyone claps and the waiter brings out a congratulations cake. She deserved something original, bold, us, and that's when the idea hit me. What if I recreated the street food festival where we met? Not just any recreation. I'd build it from scratch. Fake food stalls, string lights, actors as vendors, music, the works, a surprise event that looked and felt like a pop-up festival just for her. I called it Operation Taco Destiny. It sounded cooler in my head. The next 2 weeks were a blur. I bribed local vendors with free ad design work. I rented lights, chairs, even a taco stand from a food truck supply guy named Jerry, who only accepted payments in Bitcoin or rare action figures. I had neither, so I traded him my signed Spider-Man Funko Pop. It hurt, but love is sacrifice. I also hired a drone videographer to film the whole thing and a group of casual dancers who claimed to be an elite flash mob crew but honestly looked like a bunch of bored theater majors. Still, everything was falling into place. Except Emma, she was distant, not cold, not angry, just distracted, quiet. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. One night, as we were watching TV, she turned to me and asked, "Liam, are we okay?" My heart stopped. Of course we are. Why? I don't know. You've just been different lately. Distant. Secretive. I panicked. Not because she was wrong, but because I couldn't tell her. It would ruin the surprise. I awkwardly laughed and kissed her forehead. You worry too much. But that night, I caught her staring out the window, a tiny wrinkle forming on her forehead, the one that always showed up when she overthought things. It hit me then. She didn't think I was proposing. She thought I was going to break up with her. This was bad. No, this was catastrophic. The very thing I was doing to prove my love was making her doubt it. But I couldn't stop now. Everything was set. Vendors booked. Ring polished. Dancers half paid. I had one shot to make it perfect, and I was going to do it rain or shine, which, ironically, turned out to be exactly the problem. The day of the proposal arrived with an ominous grey sky. I checked the weather app obsessively. It said 10 chance of light rain. Double quotes liars.bypm. It was pouring, not a romantic drizzle. Not a dramatic downpour that ends in kissing.no. This was full-on apocalyptic hurricane energy. My carefully built taco stalls were collapsing. String lights short-circuited. One of the flash mob dancers slipped and twisted her ankle. The drone guy emailed me that he wouldn't risk his $5,000 equipment in a waterfall death trap. I stood there in the middle of the chaos, holding a soggy ring box, my shoes squelching with every step. Watching as Operation Taco Destiny slowly drowned, I wanted to scream, or cry, or both, and then I saw her, Emma, standing at the entrance of the park in a yellow raincoat, hair soaked, looking utterly confused and slightly furious. I froze. She stared at the half-collapsed stage, at the muddy banner that read, "Emma, will you taco about marriage with me?" And then her eyes met mine. She stood there, her yellow raincoat soaked and dripping, rain streaking her cheeks like the universe itself had joined in on the drama. And even though she looked completely confused, probably wondering if I'd finally lost my mind, I couldn't help but think how beautiful she looked. Somehow, even in a downpour, with muddy shoes, and her hair sticking to her face, she was still Emma. Still the girl who called me a cilantro fraud and made me fall in love before I even took a bite. She took a hesitant step forward. "What is happening?" she asked slowly. I opened my mouth to explain, to give her the epic speech I'd rehearsed 50 times, but all that came out was surprise. She blinked. "Are those tacos on fire?" I turned to look. One of the taco stands had somehow caught fire in the corner, probably from the faulty generator I borrowed from Ben's sketchy cousin. The flames were quickly being extinguished by the relentless rain, but the image of a sizzling taco tower wasn't exactly helping. Okay, this wasn't how it was supposed to go," I stammered. "There was a flash mob and a drone. And your favorite churros? Are you proposing to me at a taco fire?" she asked, voice rising with confusion, and what I hoped was not anger. "No, I mean yes. I was going to propose, yes, but not like this. This was supposed to be where we first met. Remember the food festival?" Her eyes widened slightly. "Wait, this is why you've been acting so weird?" I nodded, soaked and pathetic, still holding the muddy ring box like it was my last lifeline. "And all the secrecy?" I nodded again. "I wanted to recreate our first date. With all your favorite food, the music, everything. I had a speech, Emma. It was good. Really good. But then it started raining, the lights blew out, a dog stole the churros, and a dog stole the churros. Yes. And my drone guy cancelled. There was a long pause. I stood there in the middle of puddles, hair plastered to my forehead, sharp clinging to my chest. The ring box in my hand was now soft enough to qualify as a sponge. Then Emma did the one thing I didn't expect. She burst out laughing. Not a soft chuckle. A full, loud, gut-punching laugh that made her double over, hands on knees, tears mixing with the rain on her cheeks. I blinked. You're laughing. I thought you were going to break up with me. What? Why? Because you've been acting like a nervous wreck, whispering to Ben, avoiding eye contact, cancelling plans. I was planning a proposal. Exactly. And you're terrible at keeping secrets. And now, I was laughing. Suddenly, all the stress, all the disaster, all the failed perfection, it didn't matter anymore. None of it did. She was here. She knew. And somehow, she was laughing. I dropped to one knee, not the good one, mind you. The one that immediately sank into 3 inches of mud and held up the soggy ring box. I don't have a speech, I said, catching my breath, but I do have this ring and a question. She covered her mouth with her hand, eyes glistening. I know I messed this up. Big time. But it turns out, I don't need drones or dancers or taco stands to tell you how much I love you. I just need you to say yes. Even if we're soaking wet, even if everything's on fire, even if I never get the churros right. She stared at me for a second. Then she slowly stepped forward, knelt beside me in the mud, and whispered yes. You idiot, the crowd yes. A crowd had somehow formed during all this, erupted in applause. Someone threw a half-wet bouquet at us. Another person shouted, "Do it again for TikTok." It was chaos. Absolute, muddy, rain-soaked chaos, but it was ours. I slipped the ring on her finger, not even caring that my hands were trembling and covered in wet dirt. She looked down at it, then at me. You really recreated the food festival. Yep. Just for this. Yep. With a flash mob? Technically, yes. But they never made it. She shook her head, grinning. You're insane. And you said yes. So what does that make you? She laughed again and kissed me, mud, rain, and all. We sat together on the edge of the stage, or what was left of it, our legs dangling over the side, shoes soaked, everything around us looking like a post-apocalyptic food truck graveyard. Emma leaned her head on my shoulder and let out a long, satisfied sigh. Well, she said, this is definitely a story we'll be telling our grandkids. I smiled, the tension in my chest finally easing. Think they'll believe it? She pulled back slightly, giving me a sly grin. Only if you leave out the part where you slipped in the mud and screamed like a squirrel. That was a very manly scream, thank you very much. She laughed and laced her fingers through mine, gently lifting the ring to inspect it. The stone was smeared with mud, and the band had a suspicious chunk of churro stuck to it. I love it, she whispered. I looked at her. Even like that. Especially like that. Just then, a small bark caught our attention. We turned to see a drenched golden retriever trotting toward us. Yes, the dog. It had somehow survived the downpour and returned, dragging a muddy leash, and proudly carrying a soggy churro bag in its mouth like a peace offering. Emma blinked. Is that the same dog? It better be, I said. That thing owes me $20 in dessert. The dog dropped the bag at our feet and wagged its tail, then promptly sat down and looked at us like it expected a tip. I think he wants to be invited to the wedding, Emma said. He can be the ring bearer. We laughed and stood up, wiping as much mud off ourselves as possible. A few people nearby, some of them total strangers, others familiar faces like Ben and my CEO worker Jess, were still lingering under umbrellas, smiling and recording everything. Apparently, the proposal had turned into a spontaneous public performance. Emma shook her head. I can't believe this actually happened. You and me both. And it's all online now. I froze. Wait, what? She pointed. Across the field, I saw a guy with a portable live stream setup, headset and all, giving commentary, like a sports announcer. Back at it again, folks, he was saying. We've got the soaked lovers, the heroic churro dog, and what appears to be, yes, a spontaneous engagement mosh pit. Emma giggled. You're going viral, babe, I groaned. I wanted a quiet, meaningful moment, not an internet circus. Well, you should picked something less dramatic than Operation Taco Destiny. Hey, don't mock the brand. She bumped my shoulder. Okay, Mr. Viral Star. What now? I guess we go home, dry off, watch the views rack up. She paused, thoughtful. You know what I actually want right now? Please don't say churros, she grinned. Tacos. Despite everything, my wet socks, the ruined plan, the flaming food, I couldn't stop smiling. We walked hand in hand through the soaked park, surrounded by broken tents, dripping decorations, and a taco-scented fog, while our loyal golden retriever stalker followed behind us like a very proud best man. Ben met us at the car, holding two plastic bags above his head like makeshift umbrellas. You're trending, he said flatly. Is that good or bad? I asked. Good for the views. Bad for your reputation as a competent adult, Emma laughed. It's fine. He's mine now, reputation and all. Ben handed us dry towels and a hot thermos of coffee. I hate how cute you two are. You're the one who helped plan it. I shot back. Yeah, but I didn't think you'd actually go through with it in a monsoon. Emma sipped her coffee. If we can survive this, we can survive anything. That night, we sat on the couch, wrapped in dry blankets, watching the clip of the proposal that had already hit over 800,000 views. There I was on screen slipping in mud, yelling at a dog, proposing in a panic, and there she was laughing, soaked, glowing with happiness. She nudged me as I cringed at myself. You're kind of adorable, you know that? I look like a raccoon who fell into a taco truck. Exactly my type. I looked at her, the girl I almost lost to a misunderstanding, who said yes even when everything went wrong, especially when everything went wrong. Emma, yeah. I love you. Like, even when the tacos are soggy and the churros are missing. She smiled. I know. I love you too. Even when you scream like a squirrel. I told you, manly squirrel. She kissed me on the cheek and rested her head on my shoulder again. Best proposal ever. It wasn't perfect, but it was perfectly us. The video hit 1 million views by morning. I woke up to vibrating notifications, buzzes from group chats, tags from random meme pages, and even a message from an online taco brand offering to sponsor the wedding. Not kidding, Emma was still asleep beside me, curled up in a hoodie 3 sizes too big, her engagement ring glinting faintly under the morning light. I stared at her, completely in awe. How she said yes in that chaos, I'll never fully understand. I tiptoed out of bed and made us coffee. Just as I was pouring the second mug, her phone rang. She groaned from the other room. Liam, she called. Voice sleepy. Why is BuzzFeed messaging me? I ran in with her mug. They want to do a story on us. Something like top 10 most epic proposals that weren't even planned right. She blinked. Oh no, what have you done? Technically, it's what we did. Together. In the mud. With tacos. She buried her face in the pillow. Are we going to be that couple? We already are that couple. And so, unintentionally, our lives turned upside down. By the end of the week, we were featured on multiple websites. The proposal clip was edited into a TikTok dance trend, complete with a remix of My Muddy Fall and her iconic laugh. People began calling us taco lovebirds. My mom printed out every article and laminated them. Emma's dad called to say, I knew you'd mess it up. But somehow it worked. Classic. And the dog? Well, he went viral too. Turned out he belonged to the taco vendor's cousin and had a habit of running off during events. They named him Churro after the infamous ring-snatching stunt. He even got his own Instagram account. Last I checked, he had more followers than me. One evening, Emma and I sat down to start planning the actual wedding. She opened her laptop, pulled up a few Pinterest boards, and looked at me. Okay, let's start small. What kind of wedding do you want? I blinked. You're asking me? Yes. You're half of this, you know. Even if you nearly proposed in a puddle of salsa, I rubbed the back of my neck. I don't know. Something simple, maybe. Small. No drones. No fire. Definitely no flash mobs. Emma laughed. Agreed. We scrolled through images. Beaches, forests, rooftops, backyards. Everything looked beautiful. But none of it felt us. Until she clicked on a photo of an outdoor wedding with food trucks parked around the venue. We both paused. I slowly smiled. You thinking what I'm thinking? Taco truck wedding. Exactly. And churros for dessert. With edible glitter. She nodded. Now we're talking. And just like that, our wedding theme was born. Not a ballroom affair. Or a rustic barn. Nope. We were going full gourmet street food wedding. Casual, colorful, a little quirky, just like the day we got engaged. We spent the next few months planning. But this time, we weren't chasing perfection. We laughed through decisions, joked about backup plans, and built in a rain contingency. We even invited Churro as the honorary ring bearer with a raincoat. Of course, Ben, as my best man, prepared a speech that included dramatic reenactments of the original proposal. Emma's sister designed our taco-themed wedding invitations with cartoon versions of us standing in the rain. It felt like our lives had shifted, not just because we were engaged, but because we had let go of the idea that love had to be flawless, that moments had to be Instagram-worthy. We leaned into the chaos, and it somehow made everything better. The night before the wedding, Emma and I stood in the empty garden venue, string lights already glowing, food trucks parked along the fence line, the scent of slow roasting meat floating in the air. She turned to me. You nervous? I shrugged. Only about saying the right vows. I mean, how do I compete with the greatest accidental proposal of all time? You don't, she said, wrapping her arms around my waist. Just be you. That's always enough. I kissed her forehead. Even when I scream like a squirrel, she smirked. Especially then, and in that quiet moment, no rain, no crowds, no panic, I realized something. The proposal was a disaster. But this was perfect. The day of the wedding arrived with the most glorious weather forecast we could hope for. Sunny skies, 75 degrees, and not a cloud in sight. It felt like the universe had finally decided to cut us a break. Emma was getting ready in the tiny white cottage next to the garden, surrounded by her sisters and friends, and I was tucked away in a little camper van behind the food trucks, trying not to sweat through my shirt from sheer nerves. Ben sat beside me, calmly sipping a root beer. Float like this was a Sunday picnic and not the biggest day of my life. You sure you don't want to rehearse your vows one more time? He asked. No, I said, pacing. I want them to be real, raw, honest, so unprepared. Exactly. Ben raised an eyebrow. Bold choice. I took a deep breath and looked out the tiny window of the van. Guests were arriving. The taco trucks were already serving appetizers, mini shrimp tacos, and churro bites. Kids ran around chasing bubbles. Someone was playing acoustic guitar under a tree. It was the calm before the wonderful, beautiful, emotional storm. Then I saw her, Emma. She stepped out of the cottage in a white dress that looked like it had been stitched from moonlight and morning fog. Soft, flowing, simple, and completely her. No glitter, no tiara, just elegance and joy. Her hair was half-pinned, curls dancing in the breeze. And her smile. God, that smile could level buildings. For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. She caught me staring and grinned. She mouthed, "You ready?" I nodded. Barely. The ceremony was held under a canopy of trees, with white paper lanterns strung from branch to branch. Our officiant was a mutual friend who'd been there the night we met back when we were just two people debating cilantro. Churro the dog trotted down the aisle in a tiny boutie, carrying the rings on a velvet pillow strapped to his back. The crowd collectively awed. Emma giggled. When it was my turn to speak, I cleared my throat, heart pounding, and said, "Emma, you've always been the calm in my storm and sometimes the storm itself. You challenge me. You ground me. You see through me and love me anyway. I spent so long trying to make the perfect moment to ask you to marry me, but you didn't need perfection. You just needed me. And that taught me everything I needed to know about love." She wiped away a tear and smiled. Then she said, "Liam, from the moment you faked a cilantro allergy to impress me, I knew you were ridiculous, but also honest, and brave, and endlessly full of heart. You give more love than you think you have, and you never give up even when it's raining, when the churros are gone, and everything is falling apart. I've never felt more safe and more alive than I do with you. It took everything in me not to ugly cry in front of 120 people and a very photogenic dog." We exchanged rings. The audience clapped. A few people whistled. One of the food truck chefs cheered. "Long live taco love." We kissed, and just like that, we were married. The reception was pure magic. Taco bars, signature cocktails named the Cilantro Crisis and Ring Retriever. A giant mural painted love by an artist we hired that showed us standing in the rain, holding hands with churro beside us. People danced under the lanterns, laughed over spicy guacamole, and toasted with sparkling lemonade. Emma and I had our first dance barefoot in the grass to a song we both discovered on the radio during our first road trip together. Later, as the night wound down and the sky turned indigo, I found her sitting alone under the tree where we'd exchanged vows. She looked up at me. "It's still kind of unbelievable, isn't it?" "What is?" "All of it. The way it turned out." I sat beside her. Honestly, I wouldn't change a thing. Not the rain, not the panic, not the flaming taco. She laughed. Especially not the dog. We watched as Churro ran across the field, his booty crooked, chasing glow bugs like he owned the world. "We should write this story down someday," she said, "or make it into something. A little film. A cartoon." "A cartoon?" I asked. "Sure. Imagine it animated version of us, big heads, tiny hands, slipping in the mud. I smirked. I'd watch that, same. We sat there, hands intertwined, hearts full. For once, there were no disasters, no viral moments, just peace, just us. I looked at her, the love of my life, and whispered, "You really said yes in a thunderstorm?" She grinned. "You really proposed in a puddle, and somehow it was perfect." Our honeymoon wasn't extravagant. No overwater bungalows in the Maldives. No hot air balloon rides over Tuscany. We didn't even leave the country. Instead, we took an old camper van named Loretta, a borrowed relic from Ben's eccentric aunt, and spent 2 weeks driving down the coast, stopping at every weird roadside attraction, hole-in-the-wall diner, and taco joint we could find. Emma called it the ultimate foodie road trip. I called it marriage boot camp with extra salsa. On our second day, we got caught in a traffic jam behind a tractor parade in a town called Beatsville. Emma waved at all the farmers like she was in a royal motorcade. I spilled salsa on my lap and blamed the potholes. We laughed for 20 minutes. Straight. By day 4, we'd collected 3 souvenir mugs, and I survived the hot sauce challenge t-shirt. And one very confusing fortune from a mechanical fortune teller that read, "Your greatest adventure begins with flat tires and full hearts." Sure enough, we got a flat that evening. Emma handled it better than I did, you know, she said, sitting on the hood of the van, as I tried and failed to work the jack. "This might be my favorite part of the trip." "Your favorite part is the part where we're stranded in the desert with 0 phone signal?" "Yep. It's peaceful. It's funny. And you look very cute when you're sweaty and frustrated." I grunted, wiped grease on my shorts, and said, "I think that's the marriage talking." She just laughed. Eventually, a kind stranger stopped and helped us fix the tire. He was an ex-firefighter named Marty who insisted we take one of his homemade pickles for strength. We still have it. Still don't know what to do with it. But that was the honeymoon. Pure chaos, pure joy, pure us. When we got home, things didn't magically turn into fairy tale perfection. Real life hit fast and hard. We had to figure out how to merge closets, balance our work schedules, and divide laundry duties. I liked folding clothes by color. She liked folding by vibe. We argued over the right way to load the dishwasher. She hated how I left cabinet doors open. I hated how she left half-empty teacups in every room like some sort of herbal breadcrumb trail. One evening, after a particularly petty fight about laundry detergent, she plopped down on the couch and said, "Did we peek at the taco proposal?" I looked at her, arms crossed, hair in a messy bun, cheeks red from frustration, and smiled. "No," I said. "We're just in the bloopers now." She stared at me, then burst into laughter, and just like that, the tension was gone. We made a deal that night. We wouldn't chase perfection. We'd celebrate the weird, the messy, the awkward, the everyday magic. We even made a chalkboard in our kitchen titled Marital Bloopers and added new entries every week. Liam used fabric softener instead of detergent. Clothes smelled like lavender lies. Emma tripped over churro while dancing and launched a mug into the sink. Both tried to fix the Wi-Fi at the same time and unplugged the fridge instead. It became our thing. A few months later, we were invited to a local event called Love Unfiltered. Real couples tell real stories. They wanted us to share our proposal story. Emma was hesitant at first. "It feels so public. You were literally filmed saying yes in the rain while a dog photobombed us." "Okay, fair." We agreed to do it. That night, standing in front of a crowd in folding chairs and string lights, I told our story again about the tacos. the dog, the fall, the rain. The flash mob that never arrived. I ended it by saying, I spent so long trying to make the moment perfect, and forgot that the best stories are the ones we don't see coming. The ones that fall apart and somehow turn out better. The audience laughed, teared up, clapped. Emma squeezed my hand and whispered, "You still scream like a squirrel." "Emotionally brave squirrel," I corrected. We walked home under the stars, hand in hand, passing by the park where I'd proposed. The lights were gone. The food stalls, the banners, the people gone too. But it still felt alive, like the memory had soaked into the dirt and trees and air itself. Emma looked up at the sky and said, "Do you think we'll still be this ridiculous in 50 years? I grinned. "If we're lucky." And she kissed me, right there in the dark, right where it all went wrong, and then completely right. Hope you are still listening the story. If you stayed so far, please hit the subscribe button. Comment below your thoughts. Okay, let's start the rest of the story. A year passed quicker than I expected. One moment we were dancing barefoot at our wedding, and the next we were navigating tax season and arguing about whether oat milk belonged in scrambled eggs. It doesn't, for the record, but through the ridiculousness of it all, there was this strange, steady rhythm to our life. Imperfect, yes. Loud, often, but real. Emma started working remotely as a creative strategist for a non-profit, and I got promoted to creative lead at my agency finally. We both worked in overlapping circles of deadlines, emails and client calls, but somehow we made space for slow breakfasts, late-night movie marathons, and spontaneous kitchen dance-offs. One rainy Thursday afternoon, not stormy rainy, just soft, comforting drizzle, I found Emma sitting at the kitchen counter, with her laptop open, biting the end of her pen. "What's that face for?" I asked, placing a cup of chamomile tea next to her. She didn't look up. "I was just thinking. People still tag us in proposal videos. Like daily?" "Oh yeah," I nodded. "We're practically the face of soggy romance." She cracked a smile. "You know what we should do?" "Please don't say start a YouTube channel." "Okay, then I won't say we should start a YouTube channel." I blinked. "Emma," she shut her laptop with a grin. "I'm serious. Think about it. There are a million proposal videos out there. But ours was different because it wasn't perfect. That's what people connected with. Maybe there's something more we can do with it." I leaned on the counter. "Like what?" "I don't know. Talk about real relationships. The messy, funny, chaotic parts. Show people it's okay to not have a highlight reel kind of love." I raised an eyebrow. "You want to start a brand?" She laughed. "Don't make it sound scary." We tossed the idea around for weeks. What if we built something together? Something that honored our story but also encouraged others to embrace their imperfect love lives? Eventually, we landed on a concept. Plan B Love, a podcast and content channel dedicated to celebrating love that didn't go according to plan. Failed dates that turned into marriages. Proposals gone wrong that became viral. Awkward first kisses, chaotic weddings, hilarious honeymoon stories. We started small, just us, in our living room, recording episodes with a cheap mic and a dog snoring in the background. We told our story in full. We invited friends to share theirs. We laughed, we cried, we over-edited, and then it blew up. People related. They wrote in from all over the world. My fiancé threw up during his proposal, and I said yes while handing him a napkin. I tripped during our wedding walk and broke my heel. We laughed through the whole ceremony. Our dog barked every time the officiant said love, and we kept it in the video. It wasn't just us anymore. It was a movement. One night, after our 10th episode aired, Emma and I sat on our balcony wrapped in a shared blanket. The city twinkled below us. Churro, now older but still dramatic, snored beside our feet. You know, she said softly, I used to think perfection meant everything going right. No mess, no mistakes. I looked at her. And now I think perfection is when you can laugh in the rain and still say yes. I wrapped my arm around her. Even if a dog steals your churros. Especially then, we sat in silence. For a while, listening to the hum of the city, the soft clink of wind chimes in the neighbor's window. And then, just like that, it started to rain. Not a thunderstorm, not a disaster, just a light, familiar drizzle. Emma tilted her face up toward the sky and smiled. Déjà vu, she whispered. I leaned in, kissed her cheek, and said, best mistake ever. 3 years later, I found myself once again down on one knee. No, not with another proposal. Emma had already agreed to put up with my nonsense for life. This time, I was crawling on the floor of a bookstore, picking up a toddler who had decided to throw her snack cup across the room. Yes, sweetheart, I said, scooping up the cup. Gravity still works. Our daughter, Nora, blinked up at me with those giant, curious eyes she inherited from her mother, and none of my restraint when it came to chaos. She was 2 years old, fearless, and developing an alarming obsession with tacos. Emma was sitting nearby, flipping through a cookbook titled Meals Toddlers Won't Launch across the room. She smiled when she saw us, her wedding ring glinting under the bookstore lights. Let me guess, she said. Snack Cup War, Chapter 12. I handed her the cup. Nora's staging a revolution. I'm just her tired foot soldier. We'd come a long way. After the podcast, we launched a book collection of real-life messy love stories called Love Plan BN. It hit the bestseller list. We didn't expect it. We never expected any of this. Really, Emma started giving talks on relationships, authenticity, and imperfection. I transitioned from at work into storytelling consulting. Together, we traveled, worked, raised a family, and still made time for tacos every Tuesday. Our wedding video edited into a sweet, hilarious short still floated around the internet, rediscovered every Valentine's Day. Occasionally, people would stop us and say, hey, aren't you the rain proposal couple? And we'd laugh every time, because yeah, we were. But what we really were was real. One night, after Nora had finally fallen asleep after pretending to be a dinosaur for 45 minutes, Emma and I curled up on the couch with our feet tangled under a shared blanket. I pulled out my phone and played a video someone had tagged us in. A couple in Brazil trying to recreate our proposal. Flash mob. Tacos. Even a borrowed golden retriever in a bounty. Everything. We watched in silence as the rain came down on screen and the girl squealed not from shock, but delight. They're making it a thing, Emma whispered. The wrong proposal is becoming tradition. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, I said, kissing her temple. She leaned her head against my shoulder. Do you think we'll ever top it? I smiled. We already did. She looked at me. When I nodded toward Nora's room. That little salsa thief in the other room. Emma laughed, her eyes glassy. You're right. She's our greatest unplanned miracle. And in that moment, quiet, simple, wrapped in soft lamplight and the sound of a distant baby snore, I knew all the plans I ever made, all the ones that failed and fell apart, led me here. To the girl with the cilantro vendetta, to the rainy park, to the dog with the churro, to the life I didn't know I needed. And so I pulled Emma closer, looked her in the eye and said, "Thank you for saying yes in the rain." She smiled. "Thank you for asking, mud and all." I paused. "Would you do it again?" In a heartbeat, she said. "But next time. With extra churros." Thanks for watching. Hoped you liked it. If you watched till the end, please comment love, so that we could understand you were with us till the end. As well as, please let us know, where are you watching from? Before leaving, please hit the subscribe button, comment your thought, and share with your nearest and dearest one. See you in the next one. Until to the next one, spread love.